Happy Rusev Day, everyone, or happy Thanksgiving weekend, depending on what you're celebrating today. Regardless, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy holiday schedule to check out today's NoDQ video. And thank you all for your birthday comments. I really do appreciate it. Now, if you wanted to do something special and support me, head over to ProWrestlingTees.com. Check out the link in the description box or search NoDQ on PWT's website. Right now they have a 20% off Black Friday sale. You can get 20% off your entire order. Pick up a NoDQ.com t-shirt. Get one, get two, get three. Get as many as you can afford. And also, you can pick from one of 15 designs. There's a Jeff Meacham t-shirt, a Jexy t-shirt, a Virtue t-shirt, a Greg Cherry t-shirt, a David Payne t-shirt, an Interstate Kyle t-shirt, Wrestling Trivia Challenge, No DQ panel, all that good stuff. ProWrestlingTees.com, No DQ, check it out, 20% off Black Friday weekend. Thank you all again for your support. Now with that being said, let's get down to your questions. First one today comes from Smurtaza. Hey Aaron, if WWE does AJ Styles versus Nakamura and John Cena versus Undertaker non-title as the other main events for WrestleMania, then are you fine with Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar? Okay, first of all, let's take John Cena and Undertaker off the table. In my opinion, it's too late for that match. The ship has sailed. Undertaker should not wrestle again, in my opinion. Now, regarding Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, WWE could put the best WrestleMania card together, and I would still not care about Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. I'm not interested in the match. Now, to answer your question, I'll be fine with it because I'm going with the flow. WWE, at the end of the day, is going to do what they feel is best for business, and if that's pushing Roman Reigns to the top, that is what they are going to do, and I will have to just deal with it. All of us will have to deal with it. I'm sure it'll be a fine match, whatever. I'm just going to go with the flow. Now, if you're not a fan of that, you're not a fan of Roman Reigns getting the big push again and being the guy, then there are alternatives out there. You can go ahead and watch Ring of Honor, watch Cody Rhodes rip into WWE 24/7. You can watch Kenny Omega having his 6-star matches. There's other things you can watch besides WWE. In my case, I'm just going to go with the flow and accept whatever WWE does. But I'd rather WWE not do Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns again. I've said this for the past 7-8 months now, but at the end of the day, WWE, they know what they're doing. They've been in business all these years, making money. They're still making money, and they're going to do what they feel is best for their company. This one comes from Boogeyman79. Hey Aaron, since Asuka and Shinsuke Nakamura are so bad on the mic, ooh, that's savage, what do you think if they had a guy like Paul Heyman talk for them, much like Brock Lesnar? Your thoughts? I have gotten this question before about Brock Lesnar, or excuse me, Paul Heyman being the representative for somebody else other than Lesnar. Now, Shinsuke Nakamura and Asuka, they could benefit from having somebody on the mic, but at the same time, they can do fine on their own. Look at Goldberg and Sting. Those guys very rarely talked during their hottest period in 97, 98, and they were two of the biggest stars in the wrestling business. So it's not like you have to talk to get over with the audience. Now, WWE is a different beast, of course. WWE is all about entertainment, and people need to talk. They need to have layers, as Vince McMahon would say. So they would benefit, people like Asuka and Nakamura would benefit from having Paul Heyman be their representative. I think it could work, but it's not a guarantee it would work because Heyman did, after all, manage Curtis Axel and Ryback, and those guys, we see what happened with them. So it's not a guarantee. It's not a guarantee it would help, but I think in the end, it would help, and it would be a nice change of pace. For me personally, I'm sick of the same old Paul Heyman putting over Brock Lesnar promo. Yes, he does a great job. He does the lines, everyone says it with him, whatever. But I'd like to see something different. I'd like to see Paul Heyman turn heel against Brock Lesnar and have a new representative, a new beast to go up against Brock Lesnar as a babyface. But that's just my opinion. I'd like to see that rather than Heyman manage Asuka or Nakamura. And Heyman, I guess you could have Heyman represent Nakamura against Brock Lesnar, but Nakamura isn't really the beast. I want to see Heyman with a new version of Brock Lesnar. Maybe Lars Sullivan. I'd like to see that perhaps at some point. Got this one here from Sean T. Flick. When John Cena inevitably wins his 17th title, do you see his reign being short again or him being a long-term part-time champion like Lesnar? Good question. I think that will depend on John Cena's schedule. I think if John Cena is free to work a full-time schedule, I think he will. I think John Cena will do one more full-time run as WWE Champion if his schedule allows it. If Cena has other movie roles and TV appearances and other things going on outside projects, then I think at best it would be a part-time run. But if he's champion, I could see Cena doing house shows and being a regular. It might not be a long reign, but I could see Cena having a busy reign as champion where he's actually defending the title on television instead of being like Brock Lesnar and rarely appearing. In my opinion, if Cena's winning the title again, he should not be like Brock Lesnar. If he's not going to be the champion, then you can make him like Brock Lesnar where he's a special attraction. But one guy is enough. One guy only being around on a part-time basis as champion, that's enough. Having two guys do that, I think, is overkill. Next one comes from Harvey. After Finn Balor's victory at TLC, could you see him winning the Rumble and challenging AJ Styles for the WWE title? Moving him to SmackDown Live and utilizing Finn as Raw or doing nothing with him? I think it's a long shot. I would not rule it out. I would not rule anything out in WWE. Anything is possible. As Vince McMahon says, anything can happen in WWE. And with no DQ video, almost the screen going sideways is the norm. It almost always happens. But regarding Finn Balor, I would not rule it out. However, I think it's more likely if I had to pick or make a prediction for AJ Styles at WrestleMania, I would say it's going to be AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. WWE has teased it on television, and they're both on SmackDown. I don't think Finn Balor is going to jump to SmackDown Live. If it happens, it will be after WrestleMania when WWE does the draft or the superstar shakeup, whatever they're calling it. That is when I see Finn Balor going over. I don't think it's going to happen prior to that. So my gut feeling is AJ Styles versus Nakamura. That's my current prediction for WrestleMania. Balor, I have no idea what he'll be doing. Maybe he'll be facing Joe. Maybe he'll be facing... I have no idea. Maybe he'll team up with Anderson and Gallows and reform the club. Who knows at this point? I really don't know what the future holds for Finn Balor. Got this one here from We Want Edge, WWE. How cute. Hey Aaron, was Chris Benoit versus CM Punk the greatest match to never happen? If not, what match do you think would have been the best that was scheduled but changed or never went on as scheduled? That's an interesting question. Now, I'm sure there are a lot of big matches that have been scheduled over the years that ended up being canceled. I mean, most recently, that Shield reunion at TLC. I think, looking back over WWE history, I would have to say Hulk Hogan versus Ric Flair at WrestleMania 8. That was, at the time, the biggest possible match WWE could have done. But for whatever reason, I think it was because Vince personally felt Hulk Hogan versus Sid was a bigger drawing match, WWE changed plans. Now, if you remember, initially it was advertised as Hogan versus Flair. I think they even had the graphic for Hogan versus Flair at WrestleMania. But then WWE did the angle at Saturday night's main event where Sid turned heel, and it became Hogan versus Sid at WrestleMania. So I would say that was the biggest match that WWE actually brought up on television and it looked like we were going to have that match, and then WWE took it in a different direction. I'm sure there's other ones that I'm just not thinking of. You guys can go ahead and name some of them. I'm sure there's plenty. Chris Benoit versus CM Punk. If it was 2004 Chris Benoit versus 2011 CM Punk, then yeah, I'd say that would have been the biggest possible match. But Benoit had already passed arguably his peak, and CM Punk was still not the big star yet that he ended up becoming. So I'm not sure I would say that match. This one comes from Jared J. Smith. Hey Aaron, what is going to happen to Cesaro once he and Sheamus split? He's very talented and reminds me of a modern-day Hercules Hernandez. Well, I'm not sure if you saw too many Hercules matches. I mean, they weren't really that great. But you know what? I did like Hercules. I thought he was good for a power wrestler and he had a good look. But Cesaro, as far as being a worker goes, I think he's way better than Hercules. And Cesaro can do some really incredible athletic things in the ring. Now, what is next for Cesaro? I don't know, and that's why I would not break up him and Sheamus. I think they have a good thing going, and I see no need to break them up right now because I could see both guys getting lost in the shuffle. If anything, I think Sheamus is more like Hercules than Cesaro in terms of his build and his overall in-ring performances. I would still say Sheamus was better than Hercules. Hercules was not all that good in the ring. I thought he was okay. But it was more about his look that I think got him pretty far in WWE. I like to think of Sheamus more like Hercules than Cesaro, but that's just my opinion. I think Sheamus and Cesaro are better off being together right now. I think they're stronger as a team than being as singles wrestlers right now. But again, that's just my opinion. This one comes from Chris. Should WWE have stumped up the cash and booked the Garden for the Raw 25th anniversary rather than the Barclays Center? I think for nostalgia purposes, it would have been a nice touch, but let's be realistic. How much of a difference would it really have made? I mean, the money that WWE would have to spend to run the Garden, would it really matter that much? Would more fans tune in because WWE is running in Madison Square Garden? Would merchandise go up? Would more tickets be sold? I mean, you have to ask yourself these questions. Economically, would it really make any difference whatsoever? Would it make up for the extra cost? And WWE thinks no, it would not make up for the cost, the added cost of running in the Garden. And I tend to agree with that. I think as cool as it would be for nostalgia purposes, from an economic standpoint, it doesn't really make sense. I think doing the Barclays Center and doing the Manhattan Center is actually more logical. I mean, the fact that WWE is doing the Manhattan Center for this Raw 25th anniversary, I think that's awesome. I think that's really cool. And the first Raw was in the Manhattan Center, not Madison Square Garden. So I think what they're doing is perfectly fine, and we're going to get the nostalgia at the Manhattan Center. So I think it's perfectly acceptable what they're doing. No need to run in the Garden, as cool as it may be. And you know what? The funny thing about the Garden too, even though I would like to go there for a WWE show, that's something on my bucket list, the fact that they renovated the arena, it's just not the same for me anymore, because I remember the old building and have the fond memories of that old building. As weird as that sounds, it might sound weird to some of you, but I like the way Madison Square Garden used to look, and now, ever since they renovated it, it looks like every other arena. I think it lost some of its uniqueness, in my opinion. Again, this might be a really weird thing to say. Some of you might think I'm crazy, but I don't have as much desire now to go to a Madison Square Garden show because they changed the arena. It looks different from the way it looked when all those iconic WWE events happened. It's a different arena almost, even though it's physically in the same place and, you know, much of the building is the same. They did change it. So it is different for me. It might sound weird to some of you. Maybe some of you understand where I'm coming from with that. It's just not as big of a deal to me. So again, what WWE's doing now, I think is fine. Running Manhattan Center in addition to Barclays. Got this one here from Billy. Now that New Japan is expanding their marker, I think you meant market, into the US, do you giving them WWE competition? Do you see them giving WWE competition like WCW did in the 90s? It will take a lot. I mean, this could be the beginning of something, but it could take years. The thing about New Japan is there is the language barrier, and that is going to be a challenge as far as getting casual American viewers to tune into New Japan. Now, indie fans are falling in love with New Japan. It seems like the Bullet Club is really catching on, and Chris Jericho going to New Japan to work with Kenny Omega, that is going to draw in some more American fans and get them watching and sampling New Japan. We'll see. Time will tell. We'll see how successful this Long Beach show is if New Japan can continue to expand their reach in the United States. But it's going to take time. I don't know if they'll ever be able to fully break into the US market and be at WCW's level. I mean, that would take a lot. The fact that an American company cannot do it, it's going to be even harder for a Japanese company to do it just because of the cultural and language barrier and all these other differences. It's just going to be hard to get your average mainstream television viewer to really get invested in New Japan. Now, I would not rule it out, but I think it's definitely an uphill battle right now. This one comes from Oscar. What will be WWE's answer to Chris Jericho versus Kenny Omega in January, or do they even care? WWE might say they don't care, but my feeling is maybe they do care to a degree. Maybe not Vince. Maybe Vince doesn't really care, but again, if New Japan was running television head-to-head with WWE in the United States, they might care more. But then again, you look at TNA. Look at TNA, for instance. When TNA was running on Monday nights, WWE still did not acknowledge TNA's existence, even though TNA was going head-to-head with Raw. Impact was going head-to-head with Raw, with Hogan and Flair and a lot of other people. Even at that point, WWE did not acknowledge TNA as competition. So it's really going to take a lot for WWE to really acknowledge New Japan's existence. I mean, they might reference it on television every now and then, but I don't think WWE's really going to make a big deal out of Chris Jericho versus Kenny Omega. I know some people feel WWE does react to New Japan, just like when Kenny Omega won the New Japan United States title. Right after that, AJ Styles won the United States title, and people seem to think there's some connection there. I don't know if there is or not. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But I think at the end of the day, I mean, it would be smart for WWE to pay attention to what New Japan's doing and not take them too lightly. But on the other hand, again, like I said in that previous question, it's going to be so difficult for a company like New Japan to really break in the United States market and go beyond your hardcore wrestling fans, your indie fans. It's going to take a lot to draw in those mainstream viewers. I don't think WWE is going to be too concerned, regardless of what New Japan is doing right now, because it's really going to take a lot for New Japan, more than just having Chris Jericho wrestle Kenny Omega. This one comes from Garrett. Why is Heath Slater not getting a push like his former 3MB members are? We know why Jinder Mahal got the big push, because of India. As far as Heath Slater goes, there's no reason to really push him. Why would WWE push Heath Slater? With Drew McIntyre, a lot of people thought McIntyre was a future major star in WWE. When he got that initial push, a lot of people saw major potential with Drew McIntyre, and people still see a lot of potential with him. They still see star power in him. With Heath Slater, I think he was just there. You know, he is an entertaining guy, but people really don't see him as a guy that could potentially be a headliner in WWE. I think some people still think McIntyre can be a big deal in WWE, and that's why he's getting the renewed push in NXT. But it's NXT. Getting a big push in NXT, it's like being the big fish in a small pond. time will tell if McIntyre can really transition to the main roster and keep that push and continue to be a major star. It's really unknown if McIntyre will sink or swim on the main roster. Will he be like Drew McIntyre of 2009 and beyond that, or will he go back to being 3MB McIntyre? I really don't know at this point. It's hard to say. It's hard to call it, quite frankly. It could go either way. So, to answer your question, long story short, Heath Slater is just not a guy WWE sees as being anything more than a comedy, I'm not even going to say mid-carder, a comedy lower card guy. I don't think WWE sees him as anything more than that at this point. This one comes from Andy. How many of the current roster do you think Vince Sr. would like to have signed in his day? Oh man, that is a really difficult question to answer because it's a very different era. I mean, I could just imagine Vince Sr. looking at WWE today. It's so different from what he was promoting back in his day. So I'm not really sure who he would like in today's WWE. Would he like the sports entertainers or would he like the old school wrestlers? I really don't know what Vince Sr. would like. Would he like somebody like a Bruno Sammartino? Maybe somebody like Cesaro, a really powerful, strong wrestler? Maybe he would like the guys like Cesaro and Sheamus. You know, the guys that most resemble, going back to earlier, like Hercules, like the big power wrestlers. Maybe those are the guys Vince Sr. would like. Maybe he would like the ethnic wrestlers. Maybe he would like the Colognes, guys like that. I really don't know. It's a very hard question to ask. You know, Vince Sr. unfortunately is not around, so we don't know what he thinks. And, you know, when he passed away, Vince Jr. was just in the transition period of changing the company and turning it into something different. So we really don't know how Vince Sr. would have reacted to all these sports entertainers, the Ultimate Warriors and those kind of guys. I'm not sure how he felt about Hulk Hogan. I don't recall what he might have said in interviews or what his feelings were about Hogan. I'm sure there's information out there about it, but I don't know off the top of my hand how Vince Sr. felt about Hulk Hogan. But that might give you a little bit more of an idea of what he felt about the guys that were more in the sports entertainment side compared to the guys that were more traditional wrestlers. So you would have to look that up, and maybe somebody out there in the comments section can provide a link to something or provide some more information about that, because I'm not really sure how Vince Sr. felt about the Hulk Hogan type characters. And, you know, by the time he died, before he died, you know, Hogan was already a major superstar. He was already WWF champion, and the company was slowly starting to transition into being a mainstream entertainment company. This one comes from Dave Lesnar. Hey Aaron, just an idea. Why don't people like Batista and CM Punk have a super match on the Indies? Why WWE? Well, in the case of Batista and CM Punk, they really don't need to do that. CM Punk has no desire to wrestle right now, and he might never have a desire to wrestle again. Batista, he has no reason to wrestle. If he's going to wrestle, it would probably be in WWE, but Batista has other things going on with his life, and CM Punk does too, for that matter. Neither of them need to wrestle right now. CM Punk, if he wanted to wrestle, he has a lot of options. He can do Ring of Honor, he can do New Japan, but he's not doing it because he's not interested in wrestling. So for those guys, they just don't have the desire to wrestle right now. They want to do other things with their lives. They want to do movies or TV shows, or in CM Punk's case, he wants to fight or just spend time with his wife, you know, just enjoy his personal life. Those guys could easily come back and do a big match on the Indies, but they just don't have the drive to do it, the interest. I think in Batista's case, he would just want to work with WWE if he was going to wrestle again. I'm not sure about CM Punk. I just think in general, Punk doesn't want to wrestle. Alright, that'll wrap it up for this edition, this special Thanksgiving weekend edition of NoDQ video. And of course, if you're celebrating Rusev Day, this is a Rusev Day edition of NoDQ video, but I think every NoDQ video is a Rusev Day celebration. Thank you all again. Check out ProWrestlingTees.com, search NoDQ, or check out the link in the description box. 20% off your entire order. Grab a NoDQ.com t-shirt. There's 15 to choose from. Grab a bunch of them. That is the best way you can support the website, or just spread the word. Tell a friend about NoDQ video. Share this video on Facebook or Twitter. Anybody you know who watches wrestling, have them check out this video, and that'll do it. I'm done here. I'll see you guys next time for more.